The Malacca Weekly Chronicle, from the 19th of January, 1889, reported the following, quote, that navigation in the Straits of Malacca is attended with difficulties and danger. Of no mean order is fully borne out by the sad history of the past few years. One more collision, disastrous in its consequences, has just been added to the already too long list of casualties in Malayan waters.
Hello, and welcome to the Shipwreck Archive.
Thank you. Would you happen to have the story, A Confusion of Lights on Pyah Pekhet?
Here we are. Enjoy!
The Pyah Pekhet had been built on the Clyde for the Burma Steamship Company, whose ships made regular voyages between Singapore, Penang, and Malacca. She was an iron-hulled screw steamer of 319 tons, and she was completed and headed for Singapore from Greenock in 1875. This departure had not been without incident. She had become embroiled in a legal battle between the Board of Trade, her captain, and Lloyd's representative about whether or not she was too overloaded to depart. The Board of Trade wanted her to unload coal for safety, but the captain argued that unloading the coal would mean that his ship would become unsafely light quickly due to burning the coal on the voyage. He was finally allowed to depart, but unfortunately the Pyah Pekhet was caught in a storm quickly after departure, and they were forced to return to Greenock soon after they had left for repairs. This gave the legal battle a chance to resume, and the ship was once again detained. This time, the underwriters interfered and stated that they would not honor the ship's insurance claim unless the ship was loaded as she had been on her initial departure. Finally, the sheriff stepped forward and appointed 4 people to look over the ship, who declared that her load was entirely safe. The Pyah Pekhet was able to depart for Singapore with no additional changes, though the owners threatened legal action against the Board of Trade for unnecessarily detaining their ship. It would be many years before the Pyah Pekhet would be the focus of the newspapers again. On Monday the 14th of January, 1889, the agents of the Burma Steamship Company in Malacca were growing anxious. They had received a letter telling them that the Pyah Pekhet was going to be leaving Klang on midnight on Saturday, the 12th, and that she should be expected in Malacca by the next day, right on her usual schedule. By Monday morning, the agents were anxious enough that they sent a telegraph to try to discover what the delay was. They had passengers waiting on her in order to go to Singapore. By that afternoon, the sparse information had arrived in Malacca that the Pyah Pekhet had been lost due to a collision with the Chow Phya. Initial rumors stated an incredible loss of life, which did not turn out to be somewhat overstated, but that would not be discovered until more of the story was told. At 3 a.m. on Sunday the 13th, the Pyah Pekhet was traveling through the Klang Straits under the command of Captain Angus, on her way to Malacca. On board, between passengers and crew, she had 86 people on board, as well as a general cargo. Captain Angus had taken over the watch on the bridge at midnight. He said it was a moonlit night, and since he was closer to the starboard side of the Pyah Pekhet, he was steering by the trees on that side. Because it was a clear night with no rain, the side lights of their ship could be seen clearly from the bridge. They only closed the cover on them when it was raining. As the ship neared the light that marked the entrance of the strait, the lookout could see another ship enter, coming from the direction of Malacca, and bound for Bukit Kuda. As soon as the lookout saw the white light of another ship on the port side of the Pyah Pekhet, he ran to tell Captain Angus. Captain Angus said all right, but he did not see him do anything else. Then again, as it was, their ship was on the appropriate side of the channel to allow the other ship to pass, and Captain Angus most likely did not think much of the news that another ship was entering the strait. Shortly after the lookout had returned to his position, he saw the other ship's green light and then a flash of red light, and then green again. Almost as soon as he saw the green light again, the two ships struck one another. Right before the two ships struck, Captain Angus said that he had just enough time to telegraph down to the engine room to reverse the engines. He said that he felt the engines slow, but he could not say if they had started to back yet when the collision occurred. Evasive maneuvers were not possible. On one side was the Chow Phya, and on the other was the bank. If they had changed course at all, they would have run aground. The crew of the Chow Phya would later make claims about the lights that were shown on the Pyah Pekhet, but the entire crew of the Pyah Pekhet agreed that their side lights had been bright and showing clearly until the Chow Phya had smashed them to pieces. One of them had even briefly flared up due to the collision, though fortunately it had not caught anything on fire. There was then a claim that there had been a misleading white light that had shone on the deck of the Pyah Pekhet that had caused confusion. It was speculated, possibly the rice boiler, but this too was disputed by the entire crew of the Pyah Pekhet. The rice boiler was not in a position where it could cause any confusion. It was near the engine. And the only light that any of them had seen on their ship at all as they passed through the strait was the lamps at their sides. In the moment, there was little time to observe lights at all. The bow of the Chow Phya plunged into the Pyah Pekhet amidships, fatally wounding her. The Pyah Pekhet was almost cut in half by the Chow Phya. No one on the ship had any illusions about the ship remaining afloat, and among the passengers, panic almost immediately descended as they rushed to the deck. Chief Engineer Thompson and Second Engineer Eastern were on duty in the engine room when the collision took place, and they made a quick and difficult decision. Second Engineer Eastern gave the order for all of the firemen to evacuate from the engine room, while the two engineers remained behind to stop the ship's engines and blow off the steam. The last that anyone saw them, Chief Engineer Thompson was still at the engines, and Second Engineer Eastern was at the lever that controlled the ship's speed. It was something that undoubtedly saved many lives, but at the cost of their own. Chief Engineer Thompson left behind a widow and 4 children in Singapore, which added to the public outpouring of sympathy for his sacrifice. Second Engineer Eastern had only just arrived from Scotland, and was new to the region, but he had a sister who lived in Klang, whom he had visited just before his final voyage. It was a shocking blow to the families of both men. Only minutes after the collision, the Pyah Pekhet sank, breaking in 2 in the process, and those on board her found themselves in the water. Captain Angus had a narrow escape. He had remained on the bridge of his ship, trying to direct the evacuation of the ship, when the Pyah Pekhet went under, and he was carried under the bridge. He had taken his shoes and jacket off as a precaution when he had seen that a collision was unavoidable, and he was able to struggle his way underwater to the stern of the ship, where he was able to escape and come to the surface. The ship's mate, Seaton, had a similar experience. He had been attempting to launch the ship's lifeboats at the stern of the ship when the ship sank beneath his feet. He surfaced and joined another man clinging to a paraffin box, but when the other man grew too exhausted and dropped from the box, the mate and the captain came together to cling to a spar. All around them, other people were also clinging to wreckage. Fortunately, the ship's awning had become detached when the ship sank, and many people were able to use it as a raft. Those who were able to swim were able to make their way to shore, which was, fortunately, close by, while those who could not swim were forced to just wait for rescue while clinging to pieces of the Pyah Pekhet. A lucky few had thought quickly when the ships had collided and had managed to jump onto the other ship's deck from the deck of their sinking vessel. The Chow Phya, meanwhile, had backed off as soon as the collision had occurred. Her bow was badly damaged and water was pouring into her as she drifted to the tide. Eventually, she was safely beached, so she was no longer in any danger of sinking. Once his ship was out of danger, Captain Cockburn of the Chow Phya gave the order for his boats to be launched to pick up the people in the water. For some of the people, the wait was hours, and there would later be some allegations that the wait was because the crew of the Chow Phya was more interested in picking up cargo from the water than people, though this was never substantiated. The search seems to have taken a long time, primarily due to the darkness and the chaos. But all of those who were able to hold on were brought to the relative safety of the Chow Phya. Captain Cockburn was forced to jettison $2,000 worth of cargo, both to lighten his ship, as well as to access the leak before he was able to make emergency repairs and limp his ship to Klang. While the people from the Pyah Pekhet were traveling on the Chow Phya, there was a small confrontation between the two captains over a shattered red lantern. Captain Cockburn found the lantern on his deck and started to throw it into the sea, when a member of the crew of the Pyah Pekhet saw him and told him that it was a lantern from the Pyah Pekhet, and that he could not dispose of it. Captain Cockburn insisted the lantern was from his ship, but the crew member called on Captain Angus, who agreed that it was a lantern from the Pyah Pekhet, and insisted that it be held on for evidence. The lantern would later help not only show exactly where the Chow Phya had plunged into the side of the Pyah Pekhet, but also prove definitively, due to scorching from the oil having sudden access to the flame, that the Pyah Pekhet had indeed had her lanterns burning at the time of the collision. When the final count of those lost was made, it was found that 14 were gone, mostly members of the crew, including the 2 engineers. The Pyah Pekhet was beyond all salvage, and those who sailed the strait could only be thankful that she had sunk in a way that would not pose any serious danger to shipping. There were rumors that the Chow Phya would also be condemned due to the serious damage that she had sustained, but this proved inaccurate, though she was not seaworthy again until repairs had been made, and the company that was chartering her was forced to make other arrangements to transport her cargo. The hole in coastal shipping made by one ship being lost and another docked for repairs caused the local transportation and shipping industry to scramble to fill the needs of a population that counted on their ships to transport both goods and people. Once repaired, the Chow Phya would go on to a long career. The Court of Inquiry mostly focused on questioning the crew of the Pyah Pekhet to ensure that they had done everything they could to avoid a collision. They all agreed on the details. Their lights had been showing clearly and were checked often. There were no lights on the ship that could confuse anyone, and an officer of the bridge was able to see everything he needed to clearly and without obstruction. Allegations about deck passengers being allowed to sleep in a way that might block someone's view were entirely inaccurate. To prove this point, the crew told of a fight that had occurred between passengers on the last voyage that Captain Angus had seen immediately from the bridge and sent people to investigate. Captain Angus was also not known for any intemperance whatsoever. The blame for the accident in the end was placed entirely on Captain Cockburn, as had been expected by the newspapers as soon as the news of the accident had been made public. He had not had any excuse to pass the Pyah Pekhet on the wrong side, especially since his course would have put them on a collision course with the shore if they had not hit the Pyah Pekhet first. His master's certificate was suspended for 6 months. The inquiry did take time to praise him for how hard he and his crew had worked to save lives after the collision, which may have mitigated his sentence somewhat. They also took the time to praise Second Engineer Eastern for telling the firemen to go up to the deck and leave the engine room. With this decision, the families of both engineers were able to take the ship owners to court for the loss of their loved ones, in which they were successful. Chief Engineer Thompson's wife and children were granted $18,000 for their support. and 2nd Engineer Eastern's parents were granted $3,000. Though the loss of the 14 people was agreed to be a tragedy by all, one newspaper could not help but comment that both ships had been fortunate. If the accident had occurred in open seas, it was almost guaranteed that both ships would have been lost, with a terrible loss of life. For more information, please see the Penang Gazette and Straits Chronicle from the 22nd of January 1889, or see our other sources in the description below. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for visiting the Shipwreck Archives. See you soon.